This right here is probably my favorite button in the entire Street Fighter franchise, and it's found in Cross Tekken, Ryu's Far Standing Fierce. Now this might sound a bit weird if you've played other entries to the series, because it's an attack that historically feels a little misplaced or at very least underutilized. In Street Fighter 2, this button for the most part is an anti-air, and a very specific one at that. You would use it to tap people out of the air if they jumped in at max range. At this range they can empty jump, making your standard Shoryuken anti-air whiff. By using standing heavy punch you could mitigate some of that risk by not leaving yourself open for a huge punish. Outside of that, and especially on the ground, it was nearly always outclassed. Why would you press this attack when you have crouching medium punch, sweep, or crouching medium kick, all buttons with far more flexibility and reward? The same goes for Alpha 2, but in this game even its use as an anti-air dwindles when compared to stand medium punch or crouch heavy punch. It is once again made redundant by the rest of the character's toolkit. Street Fighter 4 was a similar story. Big, damaging, cool button that can combo into super, but ultimately redundant. So, 2 decades into Street Fighter, and Capcom have this button. Its use varies between games, but it ultimately exists as this tool in the shadow of others. The common thread between all these titles being its slow startup, lack of plus frames, and inability to cancel into a special. Combined, what we have is a pretty underwhelming attack, until we got to Cross Tekken. What I find funny is all the weaknesses I just listed are basically the same in this game, however its strengths could not be any more different, with the only similarity being how situational its application is. When you land a counter hit with this attack, it goes from being a stand hard punch to a stand fierce. The opponent slowly crumples in front of you and gifts this full meterless combo. Good damage, good wall carry, and god does it look good. So you might just think, this is a frame trap tool, right? Wrong. This crumple state only happens when the opponent is standing. On crouching counter, it's just its regular old self. This is huge. Crouch jabs and crouch light kicks are your tools for mashing out of pressure in this game because of their speed and due to the universally powerful crouch tech, an option select that both breaks throws and lets you put a button on the screen. Due to stand hard punch not being confirmable unless it's a standing counter hit, its uses here as a frame trap are limited, to say the least. Its strengths lie in its ability to counterpoke the Tekken side of the roster. A lot of these characters have advancing, standing, safe on block, comboable attacks that you need to deal with. They exist not only to further retain the character's mechanical identity from Tekken, but also give them something to threaten with at ranges where often projectiles are the only concern, something a lot of this side of the cast don't have access to. Jin's standing heavy kick, Lily's forward medium kick, basically Steve's entire move list, Lars standing heavy kick, Law's back medium punch, I could go on. There are a lot of attacks in this style, and Ryu's standing hard punch flourishes against them, giving him huge reward for reading what should be a relatively safe option. Certainly he can just buffer a jab into a boost chain instead, but the heavy punch peaks the risk reward in these interactions and allows for huge solo damage and thus meter use elsewhere. It takes a character who thrives on being okay in every situation and gives him a specific tool that allows him to retain this archetypal trait. It's a change for Ryu that entirely adapts him to the advantages given to the Tekken side of the cast. A simple one, certainly, but by itself, it makes him feel like a well-considered character, not just one tacked on for the sake of branding. State-dependent combos are such a core part of expression in fighting games, and we see it everywhere, from Xr's crouch-only confirms to BlazBlue's fatal counter combos, and I love them. Optimizing interactions that rarely ever happen is a sign of a player who has mastered their character, and I think it's incredibly apt that someone like Ryu would have this ability. Also, I know it's somewhat irrelevant, but I can't really overstate the kinetic joy found in hitting this move that couldn't be any more situational. It's a full crumple state and a jump in combo seen around the world because you made a gigantic call out on an attack that should have been safe. When me and C4 were prepping for a pre-release event for Guilty Gear Strive, we talked about the gigantic counter hit text on the screen, where I was reluctant about its inclusion due to the effects it has on the game's pace. He liked it, and when I asked why, his response was, "If I hit you with Leo's table flip counter hit, I want your mum to know you messed up." And that's what this move is. It is well executed, beautifully balanced, and makes Ryu more Ryu. It is perfection.